Welcome, everybody, to Mine in America. Our guest today is Tim Arnold. Tim is the Chief Operating Officer of Integra Resources, and he and I are chatting about all kinds of fun stuff. Life in a mining town, economic benefits of mining, and educating the next workforce in the best sector in the world. Welcome, everybody, and welcome to our special guest today, Tim Arnold. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you. Thanks for asking me to do this.
Well, I appreciate it. And you came to join us through a mutual colleague with George Byers.
That's right. I've known George for a long time. Actually, my wife knows him for a longer time through some of the work that she does for the natural resources industry.
Oh, nice. So you've worked with George before.
Yeah, we've known him a long time.
Excellent. So for the benefit of people who do not know you, you've got a fabulous background. Maybe just a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I'm a mining engineer. Went to the great University of Idaho School of Mines, which no longer exists. Had no mining background. I just was trying to find the least expensive way to go to the university and get an engineering degree at the time, and the University of Idaho College of Mines was it. So went underground my first time in 1976 and absolutely loved the industry. So got my degree, planned on being in operations most of my life or most of my career, and got out of school in 1981 when or 82 when there weren't an awful lot of mining jobs. So I actually worked as a miner for a couple of years out of school and actually a few years going through school. And then I started working at different operating and engineering positions. Got about 40 years now in the industry. The last 15 I've been building and developing mines, and pretty much the 25 before that has been just working at mine operations. I've been a general manager for 10 years at places like the Lucky Friday and Coeur Rochester and some other really great mines. And in the last several years, I've been trying to develop mines. Was there for building of the Kensington mine in Alaska, and most recently working for Integra Resources. We're trying to develop the Delamar mine outside of Jordan Valley, Oregon, but the mine's in Idaho. And I'm currently the chief operating officer for Integra.
I lived in Coeur d'Alene, so
Oh,
I know the area where you're working. It's very I, I think a wonderful place to work in Eastern Oregon. Very supportive of the mining industry.
Oh, absolutely. The people in Jordan Valley have been fantastic to work with, and we're redeveloping an old mine. So they've been there. They have people that, a lot of them worked at the mine. As a matter of fact, when we got there, we had probably at least a half a dozen employees that had 35 years at that mine, and we're still working there.
Wow. Now, you also used to work at Coeur, which was, I lived in Coeur d'Alene when Coeur was headquartered in Coeur d'Alene.
Yep, I worked at the Rochester mine outside of Lovelock, Nevada, for about 3.5 years, and then they recognized I had an awful lot of underground experience, and they kind of did some shifting around of general managers, and they sent me up to Kensington, which is out of Juneau, Alaska. So got about 8 years with Corp, and had a really good time working with them. They've got great people. Matter of fact, I got a tour of Rochester yesterday, and it was just like being in my old home. So I loved it.
Nice. Now, Kensington near Juneau, here's our all ways that we're connected. I used to live up in Whitehorse, Yukon, and Faro.
Okay.
And so, I've been to Juneau. How do you get to Kensington from Juneau?
Either a boat or a helicopter. There's no other way. It's about 45 miles north. It's on the mainland, and it's about 45 miles north. But as you know, there's no roads into Juneau. So if they were to build a road between Juneau and Haines, it would go by the mine. So it's up in between Haines and Juneau.
Yeah, and you know, a fabulous part of the world, beautiful and resource rich. I loved. I was up in the north about 25 years actually. Like, headed to Coeur, Coeur d'Alene after that. But can I go back to your experience at the Idaho School of Mines?
Sure. Yeah. University of Idaho.
Yeah, because I met the president of the in South Dakota of the university there. It's one of the five. There's only five School of Mines left now in the country. Is that a correct statement? You think?
No, there's 13
Okay, I'm
um,
wrong.
colleges of mines. Many of them are very small, but there's actually still 13 left.
Wow. Okay, I was wrong. So the Idaho School of Mines does not exist anymore.
No, it doesn't. It shut down about 2001. Same problem as all the rest of the schools are having. You have a lot of professors and not many students because we're just really struggling to attract young people into our industry.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the schools just have to look at it as a cost per student. And the cost per student for mining, metallurgy, and sometimes even geologic engineering is just too high, and they get rid of the schools.
Wow. So how do we get more students? Because I think you know we're in a fabulous industry, and um, it's it's a lot of it's you know filtered out into other countries, but we need more back home. And I know this is a lot of the stuff that you've been doing in your career is really trying to help bring out more students and get really involved in the education programs.
Yeah, I think, it goes back to the universities really. You got to make a commitment, and some of them are doing really well. As a matter of fact, South Dakota, I think, is doing a great job of trying to attract students. Arizona, I am very involved, or have been very involved over the years with the University of Nevada here, the Mackey School of Mines. And what it really takes is a lot of effort out in the high schools and honestly middle schools. There's two things. You need to go out to the schools where people are going to be attracted to that lifestyle. The lifestyle of a mining engineer or metallurgical engineer is more rural based. It's very hands on. You got to go out there and let these people know that if you want to sit in front of a computer all day and then go have a Starbucks in the morning and at lunch, this might not be the industry for you. But if you want to wear a lot of different hats, you want to get your hands dirty, you want to be able to be in the field and affect the changes and have a new thing come up every day, then this is a great kind of an industry for you. And that is attractive to a lot of young people today. But the places we should be recruiting from, or you can't ignore the large urban areas, but realistically farm kids and kids that grow up having to help fix tractors and things like that. I mean, those are great people to try and bring into our industry. And I, again, if when I look at over the years at Mackey, the students that I've met, a lot of them are coming from urban areas, and they're attracted to that type of lifestyle too. So it's not just the farm kids or the rural kids, but it's just talking to the right people and being able to people to understand what our industry's like. And then the other part of it's just got to be, we need to do a better job as an industry in letting people know how important it is and that it still exists. I mean, there's a lot of people who think it's still a pick and shovel industry.
It's it's
We
it,
need,
it's completely different, and projects that went forward, 50, 100 years ago, would not even the same industry. And I'm a huge fan of and trying to do whatever I can, which is not much, to really talk about why we need more mines in America
yeah.
and cutting back on the imports that we're doing because it's given both of us a great life.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah. And so many people we know, all my best friends are miners, and we are the basis of the supply chain. It starts with us, and I think we're getting more press, more notice. I think your average person now is starting to understand where maybe some of the stuff comes from, even if it's only lithium and batteries. At least they understand that mining's part of the supply chain process, and I think we need to capitalize on that. But it's going to take a concerted effort. I've always been frustrated with our industry and not putting enough money towards promoting ourselves. And I think the universities really struggle with being able to afford to get out the recruiters out there and bring people in and stuff like that. But if we're going to be successful, that's kind of efforts that it's going to take.
Yeah. It really off topic, but one of the things, because I do agree with the point you just made that our industry doesn't do enough to promote ourselves, and I understand a lot of companies, a lot of the industry groups, they have to work with government, they have to get along, but we are not good promoters. We're it, for the amount, and I went through U.S. geological surveys. I found their mineral yearbooks, I think they're called, and
Uh-huh.
I went back into the 50s, and the amount of jobs, the amount of businesses, tax revenue, infrastructure. I don't think people realize that. Take a simple town like Durango, Colorado, or Silverton, which has huge tourism. Everything we're enjoying came from mining. None of this stuff was built for tourism operations.
Well, that's exactly right, and and we've got a very rich history, and to be honest, Lou, we've got a very disturbed history. What our grandfathers did. This isn't their industry any longer. They didn't do anything illegal. It's just that we've learned so much, and we've reacted, and we've done better. And for as the country grew and we became more and more urban, less people recognize where Durango was a large city in Colorado, one of the major cities, back in the 50s. And as we've become more urban, we've just kind of lost that knowledge. If you go to Canada, people in Canada recognize that timber and mining are a very huge part of their economy, but it's also 30 million people.
Yeah.
And it's a huge part of their economy, so they recognize it. And we've just kind of gotten lost in the masses, and to be fair, certainly through the 70s and 80s, I think we stuck our head in the sand and say, if we don't say anything, maybe nobody will notice us. And we're paying the price for that now.
Yeah, yeah, and education is a huge part of it. I
Mhm.
I want to talk a little bit about your past experience with SME for the
Yeah.
benefit of people that don't know a little bit about SME and then your role there.
Okay. Well, Society for Mining, Metallurgy, and Exploration. We're the largest professional mining society in the world. It's based out of Denver, Colorado. It's been around for AIME just celebrated, I think, their 150th year, and we are an offshoot from that. Um, it's mining, metallurgy, it's industrial, it's coal. Now we've got a safety division. We've got it's expanded over the years, and we have it's a very professional society. It's not a lobbying society. It's for professionals to get together. Lots of operators, lots of exploration people. We incorporated the Underground Construction Society a few years back, so now all the tunnelers and the mole rats, I think they call themselves, they're all now part of our group. And the biggest thing we do is have an annual convention, 6 to 7 thousand people, and it's a lot of technical sessions, literally hundreds and hundreds of technical sessions. And so it's a great place to come and share knowledge and see what the industry's doing, large floor. And but there's also so much more we do. We do fundraising so that we put a very major program together a few years back where what we realized is we need more professors, and we need to put more professors in all of the universities. All the universities' average age was in the 60s already. So we're literally a multi-million-dollar a year effort to give scholarships to people getting their PhDs, and then also getting them the help so that they can get their accreditations and things like that. And so I started working with SME many years ago, local chapter secretary. Started working on the national level because when I'd go to the show, I didn't think that programming was very good. I was an underground guy, and I'd go to all the underground talks, and they were boring. And somebody said, "Well, why don't you do something about that?" So I started getting involved on the national level, and then the problem with any volunteer organization, if you keep sticking your hand up and doing a good job, you get advanced. And in 2016, I was honored to be the president of SME. Was really good time in my career where I could almost take the year off, or at least a big chunk of the year. So spent an awful lot of time. You do a lot of traveling. You go to a lot of different other national societies. Went to South Africa for a while. Meet with all of the other countries' professional and mining societies. You meet with all of the U.S. Professional societies as well. You know, the double E's and the mechanicals and the civils and stuff like that. It was a great opportunity to share what mining means, and also to just see what everybody else is doing out there. And it was a great year. And the best part about being the president of SME is when you get to be past president of SME, because now they don't ask much of me.
I love it. I love it. Now, and when we were talking earlier, you mentioned that before you got into this career and into your education, you weren't a good student.
I was not. As a
I
matter
like
of
that.
fact, I already told you I started school in 75 or 76 and I got out in 82. So anybody that can do the math realizes I wasn't all that good of a student. I did take a year off to go work in the mines. But yeah, my senior year, the head of my college came up to me and said, "Tim, you can't graduate with a 199 GPA. It's got to be over 2.0. This is your last semester. Are you going to make it?" And I did. I even had a little buffer there. But no, I was not a good student. But at one point they were going to boot me out of school, out of the university, because I was with poor grades. And the only thing that saved me is that work I did in the summers and stuff like that. The head of my college talked with all of my employers, and they said, "Yeah, we love him. We'd like to have him back. I hope he gets his degree because he's a good worker. He just might be a really poor student," and that was the fact. So yeah, it's so you got to you got to remember that when you're working with the students today. Not all the 4.0 people aren't necessarily going to be the general managers. They're bright, they're very good at but some of those 2.5 GPA people will surprise you down the road too. And you got to make sure that everyone's put in the right position. Every time I saw that same head of the college, the first question he'd walk up to me, and the first question he'd ask is, "Are you a general manager yet?" Because he knew that's where I should have been. I should have been in operations. I had common sense and I worked hard. That was kind of my slot. Not in, I shouldn't teach or, go into work for the government. I should be out there with the people in the field.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I get it. I get it. I endured university in order to get out. That's
Yeah.
probably a good way of putting it.
Mhm.
So your first job was underground?
Yeah, my first job, well, actually, my first 20 years was underground. I worked underground as a summer student, and then uh, several times, a couple summers, and then I took a year off to sink shaft. That was actually kind of an almost co-op program. Uh, and then when I got out of school, there weren't any jobs. So I went to work at a mine in New Mexico as a electrician, grunt electrician. You just pulled cable and whatever you needed to do. They taught me a lot, and then went to work in a mine in Colorado as a laborer and worked my way to a contract miner's position, which is the cream of the crop when it comes to being a miner is when you're actually a contract miner. And still couldn't find any work in the United States as an engineer. So my wife and I picked up our bags and immigrated to South Africa for 4 years. And there's the first time I really got into what you would call a staff type position where you were leading people and doing engineering, real engineering, and then stayed in the underground industry till, I guess about 2000, 2001. Just I was an underground guy.
Hmm.
Loved it.
So what is a drift miner?
So driving a drift is a horizontal opening,
Okay.
basically. And if so when the mining I was doing was a jackleg, driving drilling holes with a jackleg. We mucked the heading with a 12B overshot mucker, which is at museums anymore. Very rarely do you see those used. It wasn't rubber tire, no type of drifting, and then it was all rail. And then we were just developing new areas to go into. The actual mining method we were using was shrinkage stoping, and
Okay.
I worked in those stopes for a little while too, as a laborer more than anything else. It was a small mine, few hundred tons a day.
I had a friend of mine who went on to become premier of the Yukon, but he started his career as an underground miner, and he had more respect for and I'm going to get this wrong, so you can correct me, because I want you to explain it a bit more. Jackleg miner, is that
Yeah,
the right term? He said the people he worked with were so incredibly strong. What they were moving, he said it like 20 years later, he was still absolutely in awe of them.
yeah. So the jackleg that almost everybody used, certainly in the United States, was called a Gardner Denver 83, and it was an 83 because it was 83 pounds. And you have to be very strong to learn how to use it. Once you've learned how to use it, you let the drill do the work. But all the rest of the work that you have to do. I mean, standing rail. I ended up getting carpal tunnel because we had a ditch down the right side that has a very colorful name, and the guys opposite weren't looking their holes down, so I had to chip it out with a pick every day, and ended up getting a carpal tunnel just because my forearms grew so fast, basically. Yeah, it's incredibly hard work, and it still is. Those people at the mines earn their pay. Even the guys that sit in a truck for 12 hours a day, that's sitting in a truck for 12 hours a day. I mean, that's imagine getting in your car and driving 12 hours every day. And so it's all hard work, but I have an incredible respect for the hourly people in our industry. And it is getting easier. We're using jumbos and we're using different things to rock bolt with, but it's still a very difficult industry. And you come out of your shift tired, you really do. But it's a lot safer today than it was back in those days, and we've really made some incredible strides there.
I was looking at the stats for safety. It's incredible the percentage improvements in the industry. It
Oh,
really is. I don't think
yeah, we
I don't think people realize it. I think it was like 40% reduction in non-fatal accidents over a 15-year period, like something phenomenal.
yeah. In my career, when I started mining back in the mid '70s, in the United States we were killing about 150 people a year, and the last several years we've been right at 16 to 18. So that's almost 100% reduction, or it's a magnitude of order reduction in number of fatalities. 15 is still too many. But yeah, we've really put some effort into that, and we've gotten much better. We behavioral based safety is what is the catchword for it, but it's making sure that everybody realizes there is no job out there that you need to do that would risk an injury. And once we got that clear, because I took risks all the time, everybody did. You just had to get the job done.
So I went underground for my first time. The thing that I found the most fascinating that it's still in my head is the board with all the key tags.
Yeah, the tag board.
Yeah, I'll let you explain that, because I to this day that's the thing that had this biggest memory for me.
Really. So what you do is every person that goes underground has to tag in and tag out. And so there's a board with two sides to it. One says if your tag's on the right side, it means you're out of the mine. If your tag's on the left side, you're in the mine. And you also have to carry a tag on yourself, on your person, as you go underground, and they're brass. And so you call it the brass board. Uh, um, it's a little morbid, but the reason that you do that is if there's a major event underground and you have to get everybody out of the mine for like a fire or something like that, when you come out, you take your brass and you put it on the outside. And if there's brass still left after you think you've evacuated the mine, those people are underground and you need to go out and be able to find them. So it's incredibly important that you religiously tag in and tag out at every shift. The reason you carry one on your body is if there's a fire and it's a very massive fire, you can identify that person because the brass won't melt, but you wouldn't be able to identify that person any other way. So yeah, it's a pure safety thing, but and if you don't tag out at an underground mine, a lot of mines, like I believe Cortez still does this. If you're on the brass board and you forgot to tag out, they will make you come back and tag yourself out. Well, you might be an hour and a half from work, but you still got to come back and do it yourself because nobody's going to do it for you. And that will make you remember to do it all the time.
Um, I uh, I was uncomfortable when I went underground my first time. But once I think once you're there, it's a phenomenal experience. There's
I,
just
I,
something completely in the earth that's just I don't know if it's what it is, but there's something inside you that just it captivates you, I think.
it either does or it doesn't. There's a lot of people that just can't work underground. And there's a lot of people that won't try because again, they seem to think that it's, you're going to be claustrophobic. I mean, this is to me, most mines today are just big construction sites that have walls and a ceiling. I mean, the drifts are 20 feet wide and they're 18 feet high. You're got big equipment running around. But when I got started, a lot of the mine I was working at is a contract miner, smaller drifts and stuff. But I never felt claustrophobic. Some people do, but it's also the humidity. They're always humid. Sometimes they're hot, sometimes they're cold. You can't touch anything that doesn't have dust on it. So just you learn to eat all of your food through plastic bags because your hands are always dirty. But I loved it. I mean, the first time I went underground, it was a hot mine, and I was a grunt laborer, but you either love it or you don't. And we transitioned from surface to underground at Jarrett Canyon while I was working there, and brought a lot of the open pit guys in and said, "Look, this is your opportunity because we're going to run out of ore on the open pit. Would you like to transition into?" And I think maybe about 40% of them couldn't. But I think 60% of them or so did eventually, or went to work at another mine locally.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I was very fortunate. I didn't grow up in a mining community at all. So mining was totally new to me, and I ended up in Faro, which is was a former lead zinc mine up in Canada's Yukon. I was gifted with having the experience of living in a 100% fully employed by the private sector community, and the benefits of a stable community The social problems were minimal. It was the favorite
Mhm.
posting for the RCMP. It was an incredible opportunity, and I don't think people understand that when they think about mining, that this is hugely important to our social well-being.
Yeah, so it was a company town, is what you're saying, right? It was a completely employed by the company.
It was it was an actual community in the region. They were like a municipality, or small. It was 1,800 people. So they received some. They had a town council and stuff like that. But if you weren't working for the mine or for the grocery store or for somebody related to it, there was no reason for you to be there. Uh,
I see.
but but the mine did something fabulous, um, and it happened just as I arrived. Was they changed their shift work to encourage more families, and so it had been like a 6 and 3s. It was 3 days, 3 nights, three off,
Mhm.
and but they changed it to 4 and 4, and families flourished. It was, and I think that was a real pivotal point in my life, was realizing these incredible people came from all over the place to have this community.
Yeah, if you've got a mine in a small community, and we will at the Delamar, where we're Jordan Valley's 150 people, and we're going to have 200 people working at the mine. So, it's your mines are typically drug free because you're testing. You catch people that are trying to cheat. So many people, everyone knows first aid. Huge percentage of the workforce is either a first responder or an EMT. They're all got good training now. I've always said if you're ever going to get in a car accident, do it in a mining camp, because the first person to you is going to have at least first aid training. And it's hard work, but they work hard, they play hard. I've always said miners are house poor and toy rich. They've got the side by sides and the big pickups and stuff, and they don't and they're outdoorsy people, and they're real serious about their fun. So yeah, I can, a community that's dominated by miners can be a really, really great community.
Oh yeah. Oh no. So tell me about what you're doing in East Oregon.
So we're actually in Idaho. The mine itself is in southwest Idaho.
Okay.
We
Great.
are well on our way. We've gotten a fabulous resource drilled out. We've got about 4 million ounces up there. We put out a pre-feasibility study. I guess the March of 22, so about a year ago. And it envisioned a oxide heap leach operation. It's open pit, as well as a sulfide plant mill.
Okay.
The market, we used honest prices in that time in March of 2022, and of course prices were out of sight for everything. And the market didn't like our pre-feasibility very much, so we kind of pivoted. And what we said, okay, we've got this fantastic heap leach. It's easy to build. It's inexpensive. It's not inexpensive, but it's less capital than building a large mill for these sulfide ores. So we're just going to put the sulfide on the back burner. It's not going anywhere, and we're going to focus only on our heap leach, build this mine. And right now we're in the process of finalizing more of the engineering, but we're also permitting. And of course, permitting is something you can schedule, but you'll never, you can't guarantee you're going to meet the schedule because you're at the whims of the permitting process. We will have a plan of operations out later this year, and we're hoping within a couple of years after that, getting a record of decision and going into operations or going into construction. Like I said, it's a wonderful place. The community is hugely supportive, and the Delamar project is a very good project. And we'll start off with the heap leach, but someday I'm sure there will be a mill there, but we'll let the cash from the heap leach help build that. We also just recently announced that we're merging with another company called Millennial Precious Metals, and that's just hot off the presses.
Nice.
And they've got actually 8 properties, but none of them are advanced as ours. So basically, what we're doing is our flagship will be Delamar. We'll continue to advance the Delamar project, and then they've got 2 projects not very far from Reno, Nevada, that are advanced. One's probably 2 years behind us, and the other one's probably another year or 2 behind that. So we'll be able to advance those projects. So we'll be doing the same sort of work we've done over the last 3 years at Delamar on those projects, while Delamar goes through the doldrums to the investor world, which is the permitting time and the development time. But we'll definitely be being able to advance those 2 projects, and then got lots of other exploration potential out there too. So this will make us a 6-7 million ounce company, and when we go into production, we'll be somewhere between 200 and 250,000 ounces a year, which makes us a mid-tier mining company if we can execute on our plans.
Well, and you've got the team, the proven team behind you at Integra. It's yeah, a huge success, hugely successful people. So I have no doubt.
Yeah, no, it's a great team, and that's why this merger with Millennials, they've got some fantastic people, but they don't have many. And so this merger takes our team and allows us to be able to just move from project to project. If Millennial had stayed on their own, they would have had to build their own team. And it's hard to do in this industry today. So that's why this merger makes a lot of sense. We're talking about saving about $2 million a year in G&A type costs just by making this merger. So, and it's something the industry needs. There's just way too many single operation juniors out there right now. And it has been received by the market very well.
Yeah, you're right. There's too many, and too many one projects out
Yeah.
there. Congratulations on that. It's definitely, as you say, needed in the industry.
Yeah, it's and great team. I mean, I really like all the people we've met with Millennial. They're every bit as professional and qualified as the Integra group, and we just fit together really well.
Yeah, I congratulate you on that, and look forward to following the story. I've really enjoyed our conversation today.
Yeah, this has been great. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, I have only one question. The
Uh-huh.
stuff, the stuffed ram's head on your wall.
So that is the only sheep this 66-year-old guy probably will ever get in his career. I've been putting in for sheep hunts. I do a lot of hunting. I
Okay.
got a very nice elk last year. And I just haven't been able to pull a sheep tag. And my daughter-in-law is a very obviously accomplished knitter. So that was a Christmas present I got a couple of years ago. So she knit me a sheep head, and I made sure I put it on my wall so that everybody can see it. I got all sorts of little awards and things like that, but I got my sheep head on my wall so everybody can see it in a Zoom call.
I love it. I love it. This is the part where I shouldn't tell you that my daughter on her first hunting trip got a full curl.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, she was
Yeah.
20 years, she was 20 years old.
Oh, just to get a tag at 20 makes me mad. No,
Yeah,
it's
she
I'll keep putting in, and I mean, like I said, I was able to pull myself up a mountain and get a very nice elk next year, and if I get a sheep tag, I'll die trying, that's for sure. I got it. I'm real lucky. I've got some very good friends who are exceptionally good hunters, so they help a lot.
nice. Well, I wish you great success.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for joining us, and thanks everybody for joining us. Let's talk again. I want to keep following your story.
Okay, that's good. Thanks.
Thank you.